Can you put
that's,
that
I
on the
think,
timeline for us when the food truck happened, and give a little bit of backstory on that for everybody that doesn't
yeah,
know
yeah,
that chapter for you?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I had left Junoon and I joined the Breslin, which is another Michelin-star restaurant headed by April Bloomfield. And I was just, I learned so much about like ingredients and choosing the right ingredient and honoring that versus Indian food has a different philosophy of cooking where we often don't really worry about like is the fish cooked perfectly or we've like completely like like murdered the
Yeah,
goat or whatever. So
yeah.
it was a total change for me and it was so good that I could like get the both best of both, like understand flavors as well as learn, like really focus on great techniques. And during that time, I was, someone from um, Seattle, who was an ex-manager at Amazon, reached out to like collaborate and do a food truck in Seattle. And I said I don't mind doing it, but the on the premise that I have complete, like I can use whatever ingredient I want. I don't want to be typecast. I don't want to be put in a box. And that's what we did.
That's such a like dig into that a little bit because I think that there is this sense of young chefs or people who haven't had their first project before. Something comes up or something gets presented to them or they get connected to someone and it almost becomes like that wolf in the suit, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna take you for a ride. They're gonna completely just label you, like you said, put you in a box. So like if someone like what advice do you have for people as they're starting to get these opportunities, because it seems like you really like dug your feet in and said, like this is I'm going to do this, and you like confidently presented almost, but it's not like this arrogant thing, right? It's almost like
Right.
it's a negotiation, right? So how can
Hmm.
people, maybe my question should be like, how can people negotiate better, or what should people keep in mind as they're negotiating with these opportunities?
Right. Um, I think it's very important when you get presented an opportunity that you're not sure of whatever. I think you definitely ask them for some time, come back home, and just like spend a few minutes like writing down the pros and cons. And I definitely suggest like calling a mentor or talking to someone who's been in the industry for a while. I mean, there are two sides to it. Sometimes it can go like, you don't want to be influenced by someone else's life path. I also, so you have to choose your mentor like wisely. And if you see that there are things that maybe it's like your paycheck or your something that like maybe I say that I can only do work 5 days a week, like I'm not going to kill myself or something. I think however hard the conversation is, have it before you sign the contract. And most likely, like a lot of times, if they really want you, there'll be a middle ground there for sure.
So running this business that was, you know, food trucks in my experience, and I worked on a food truck, like I would run
Hmm.
shifts on a food truck. I didn't own a food truck business, but it is different than a pop-up or a restaurant. Like it is this kind of middle ground, like, but it seems to be still this very attractive, business venture, as either beta testing a
Hmm.
concept or we're actually going to scale this and we're going to have eight of
Yeah,
these
yeah.
trucks. So I guess learnings from food truck life. Would you do it again? Pros and cons. I guess if someone ends up finding this interview and says, Aarthi is going to be my mentor, well, if you
Right.
had to have that phone call with someone now, like what would you share with them?
Yeah. I think you're right about a food truck being a great space to test a concept. It's you can you cannot like just hang on to it for like years. If you have a plan in mind where you're from a truck, I'm moving on to a space, or uh, there is opportunity to like do more. But I think like from one truck, if you do more trucks, you're diluting um, your what's that called? Like you're diluting the need for you. If 400 people come to your truck at XYZ location, if you have two trucks, most likely 200 people come to one and 200 go to the other, wherever whichever
Sure.
one is close to them. So from that point of view, I don't see like a huge scalability with I mean, I'm sure like the different models to it, like
There are
uh
exceptions to all these
yeah,
pieces
yeah,
of
there are
advice,
exceptions
but it's like you want to
to
keep that exclusivity factor. Like it's got to
right,
be
right,
cool
right.
still. If it loses the
Yeah.
cool, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. And also it's I also learned that it's just as difficult as and it's just as expensive as opening a restaurant. Maybe a little less uh, in the beginning, but then there are a lot of challenges that you're dealing with. You're still paying rent wherever. You can't just park it anywhere. Wherever you park, and they're like government appointed like parking spots. You can't just like show up in any neighborhood or so. So those are things to keep in mind. And I've also seen that it seems to be a very family oriented venture. I think we were definitely an exception, where everybody's in, so the money stays in the because it can be like some days a city like Seattle, oh my God, like if it rains, you're getting no clients. So it's based off like because it's based off like the weather and uh, the kind of the neighborhood you go to. If uh, they they don't eat like whatever you're trying to offer, there's a high chance that you may not like. So it's like a restaurant, but you also have to have a commissary. That's another thing that people forget. Like you cannot cook everything on the food truck. You have to cook it at the commissary, then take it with you. You need to have someone who knows how to drive a truck. That's so keeping all these things in mind. I think for me, a restaurant is probably much easier because you have to go to just one place. You're not worried about like trying. You have to fight for parking. You have to get on the website like at 12:01 a.m. and then like search for parking, and it's such like an insane. I didn't realize like it would be so crazy.
You're
Um,
ruining the movie Chef for everybody in the best way. Like in the
I'm
best way.
so
Like
sorry. I'm so
no,
sorry.
I love the practicalities of it because it really is this
Yeah.
it's like this very targeted version of I think we've all seen those friends of ours who can host a great dinner party and then you hear those people at the dinner party say you should be a chef or like
Yeah.
someone bakes something nice for a party and they say you should open a bakery and it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
are
Yeah.
you sure because it's like there's you just said a list of 8 things that people who watch the chef food truck movie and they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
this romantic idea of like I'm going to start this thing and it's going to be amazing and I'm going to sell out Miami. It's just
Yeah.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying this to be discouraging either. I'm
Right. Right.
saying this of like go into it with the knowledge that this is what
Yeah.
you can expect and I don't know like call it being a like a glass half empty kind of
Yeah.
perspective on it but it's just like I would rather have that information than get slapped in
Right.
the face with it once I start. I just
Yeah.
think that it's so you, in your experience, you mentioned that you don't want to run a food truck forever. There's certainly friends of mine who own food trucks who can attest to
Hmm.
that. Is there a good, again, trying to arm people with information? What is like the optimal time to do a food truck project in your mind where it's like you have enough time in the market where people can see who you are and what you do, but it's not too much where you're running this thing and you hate it, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on, let's get it moving.
Um. A timeline can be, it's so difficult to say. I think for us, I think hit it off really in the beginning as well. Beginning itself, we would, I think we got a lot of like people like saw us and they heard about us. So I think after a year, we were able to get on. Um, we could have done a restaurant if we wanted to. So it really depends on like visibility, your idea, unique, all that kind of stuff. Now, if there are like 10 other burger trucks, it's hard to get noticed. It might take like 3, 4 years. So you have to know if you have to kind of figure out if you're ready to do it or not. Yeah, there's flexibility. Maybe you can take a month off, like during, like, I don't know, during when it's like winter or something. And most likely, a lot of trucks take like time off for like a couple of months. Um, so there's like some added like bonus to it, uh, one or two things. But yeah, if you want to be there in the long haul of it, expect like any restaurant, like 3, 5 years probably,
Sure.
for sure.